नमस्कार दोस्तों, आई वेलकम यू ऑल टू डिस्कवर नॉलेज। डिस्कवर नॉलेज में आप सभी का फिर से स्वागत है। दोस्तों, संविधान का जो चौथा पार्ट है यानी कि पार्ट 4, यह हमें डीपीएसपी के बारे में बताता है। डीपीएसपी मतलब डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी, यानी कि राजनीति के निर्देशक तत्व। तो इस वीडियो में हम लोग इसके अर्थ एवं उद्देश्य के बारे में जानने का प्रयास करेंगे और ये फंडामेंटल राइट्स से कैसे अलग है, डिफरेंस बिटवीन फंडामेंटल राइट्स एंड डीपीएसपीज, इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ डीपीएसपी, डीपीएसपी का क्या महत्व है। आर्टिकल 37 के बारे में भी जानने का प्रयास करेंगे कि आर्टिकल 37 कैसे डीपीएसपी से रिलेटेड है। रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन फंडामेंटल राइट्स एंड डीपीएसपी, फंडामेंटल राइट्स और डीपीएसपी के बीच क्या संबंध है। इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ डीपीएसपी, डीपीएसपी के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कैसे होते हैं। डायरेक्टिव एंड अदर पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, डायरेक्टिव और अदर पार्ट ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के बारे में भी जानने का प्रयास करेंगे। सो a lot to know, a lot to discuss as always. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। पहले जानने का प्रयास करते हैं अर्थ एवं उद्देश्य के बारे में। तो दोस्तों, नीति निर्देशक तत्वों का वर्णन संविधान के चौथे भाग में किया गया है। ये तत्व शासन व्यवस्था के मूल आधार हैं। ये तत्व हमारे संविधान की प्रतिज्ञाओं और आकांक्षाओं को वाणी प्रदान करते हैं। इस प्रकार ये सिद्धांत देश के प्रशासकों के लिए एक आचार संहिता की तरह होते हैं। राष्ट्र की प्रभुसत्ता के प्रतिनिधियों के रूप में हमें कार्य करते समय उन्हें इन निर्देशक सिद्धांतों का ध्यान रखना चाहिए, क्योंकि ये उन आदर्शों को प्रतिस्थापित करते हैं जो भारत के राज्य का आधार हैं। निर्देशक सिद्धांत कार्यपालिका और व्यवस्थापिका को दिए गए ऐसे निर्देश हैं जिनके अनुसार उन्हें अपने और उचित रूप से पालन हो। तो अब जानने का प्रयास करते हैं डीपीएसपी के बारे में कुछ और इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्ट्स। डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी के बारे में बात करें तो इट इज़ द पॉलिसीज एंड इट इज़ इन द नेचर ऑफ डायरेक्शंस टू द स्टेट टू बी ऑब्जर्व्ड while forming the laws and policies. Most of them aim at establishing social and economic democracy as pledged in preamble. सोशल और इकोनॉमिक डेमोक्रेसी को प्लेज करने के लिए, जो कि हमारे संविधान में दिया गया है, प्रीएम्बल में बताया गया है, उसके लिए डीपीएसपी होते हैं। दे कैरी द कंसेप्ट ऑफ वेलफेयर ऑफ स्टेट एज अगेंस्ट पुलिस स्टेट एंड समराइजेज द आइडल्स ऑफ पीपल ऑफ इंडिया. They tend to establish a welfare state as against a laissez-faire or regulatory state. So next thing is, the DPSP are non-justiciable in nature and cannot be enforced in court of law. So they are called as positive obligations of the state. So after that, let's come to know about fundamental rights and DPSP. What is the difference between fundamental rights and what is DPSP? So talking about fundamental rights, it is enforceable in the court of law. We all know fundamental rights can be challenged. If one violates your fundamental rights, you can go to Supreme Court and ask for justice. And DPSP, it is non-justiciable in nature. And again, talking about fundamental rights, it provides for political democracy, and DPSP it provides for social and economic democracy. Fundamental rights are negative obligations of a state, that is, they prevent the state from doing few things. And DPSP are positive affirmation of the state. Fundamental rights are given in strict legal language and it is given in general terms. Fundamental rights promote the welfare of individuals, hence personal and individualistic in nature. And directive principles promotes welfare of community, hence socialist. It is not about a single person, it promotes the welfare of the community, hence it is socialist in nature. So it represents something static where basic rights have been conferred on individuals, and aim of a state is to preserve those rights. And talking about directive principle of state policy, यानी कि राजनीति के निर्देशक तत्व, it represents something dynamic where the state has to keep doing something to realize these principles. So next difference is fundamental rights don't require further legislation or their implementations. Fundamental rights are themselves laws enforced automatically. And talking about DPSP, it is not enforced automatically. So let's come to know what is Article 37. It states that DPSP are not enforceable in court of law, but however, nevertheless, they are fundamental in the governance of the country. and it is the duty of the state to incorporate DPSP in the policy formulated by laws made. So let's come to know about the importance of DPSP, or what is the relationship between fundamental rights and DPSP. Supreme Court in Champakam Durayarajam case 1951 held that DP cannot override fundamental rights. They have to conform and run subsidiary to fundamental rights. In case of conflict between fundamental rights and DPSPs, fundamental rights will prevail. So friends, when there is clash between fundamental rights और DPSP, तो फंडामेंटल राइट्स को हम लोग ज़्यादा महत्व देंगे. However, realizing the importance of implementing DP in establishment of welfare of a state, Supreme Court in Kerala Education Bill case 1937 adopted the theory of harmonic state and said that DPs cannot override fundamental rights. Nevertheless, in determining the scope and ambit of fundamental rights, the court cannot ignore the DPs completely and try to give effect of both DPs and fundamental rights as much as possible. The court said that the court said that there is no inherent conflict between fundamental rights and DPSPs. It is the responsibility of courts to interpret the constitution in such a way so as to implement the DPs and also ensure non-violation of fundamental rights. DPs are also relevant to define what are the reasonable restrictions on fundamental rights. If there are two interpretations possible to law giving effect to DPs, and first interpretation leads to harmonization or compromise between directive principles and fundamental rights, second one is it leads to conflict, then the court shall take up the first interpretation. However, if only the interpretation is possible which leads to conflict between the court, have no choice but to implement fundamental rights over DPs. So on the basis of interpretation, Supreme Court declared that Bank Nationalization Act 1971 and Privacy Purchase Abolition Act 1971, which were enacted to give effect to DPs, 39B and 39C to be unconstitutional and void on the grounds that they violated three fundamental rights, Article 14, 19 and further 31 also. But Parliament felt that judgment came in a way of enacting a social legislation in the larger interest of the society. Therefore, it enacted 24th Amendment Act 1971, which introduced Article 31C, which reads that if a state enacts the law to give effect to two DPs under Article 39B and 39C, and in that process the law violates fundamental rights under Article 14 and 19 and 31, then it cannot be held unconstitutional merely on the grounds. And again in Keswananda Bharti case 1973, Supreme Court held that the validity of 25th Amendment Act and thus also held Bank Nationalization Act and Private Purchase Abolition Act to be valid. Now again Parliament enacted 42nd Amendment Act 1976, which among other things amended Article 31C, which read, if a state enacts a law to give effect to all or any of the DPs and in the process violates Article 14, 19 and 31, then that law shall not be unconstitutional or void merely on the grounds, and such a law cannot be questioned in any court of law. Again later, through 44th Amendment Act and Article 31 and 91 subclause F from the list of fundamental rights. So again in Supreme Court in Minerva Mill case 1980 held that the changes introduced by 42nd Amendment Act in Article 31C are unconstitutional because it disturbs the balances between Part 3 and Part 4 of the Constitution. So let's come to know about the importance. What is the importance of DPSP? So DPs have not been given a legal authority, not because they are inferior to any other part of the Constitution, but because their implementations need time and resources for which a time frame cannot be set. Dr. Ambedkar said that DPSPs may not be enforceable in court of law, but are enforceable in the court of people, and any responsible government shall have to implement DPs. DPs do not enjoy legal sanction, but enjoy political sanction. They act as a lighthouse and constantly remind the kind of their responsibility of taking the country towards welfareism. So talking about implementation of DPSPs, India being an agrarian, that is agricultural country, the greatest progress in carrying out DPs have not been regarding implementation of 39B and 39C, that is free legal aid to economically backward classes, also Article 40 and Article 41. So directives and other part of the constitution. Article 58 directs the state and social authorities to provide facility for instructions in mother tongue at primary stage and to the children of linguistic minorities. And Article 351 directs the government to promote the spread of Hindi, and Article 355 directs the state that the claims of Supreme Court and STs, the claims of SCs and ST, that is scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, shall be considered along with the maintenance of efficiency of administration. So that's all for today. If you watch this video a useful one, then do share the channel, and this is very helpful in your upcoming UPSC prelims as well as men's point of view. So you can note down these important points. And thanks for watching this video. Have a nice day. God bless you all.